A bullied teen stood up for a kid at school, unaware he just befriended the son of a billionaire. The moment passed like many others in Ethan Miller's life. Quickly, painfully, and with consequences he couldn't yet imagine. Rain pattered against the windows of Westlake High, matching the rhythm of Ethan's heart as he pressed himself against the cold metal of his locker. 17 years old, with shoulders perpetually hunched as if waiting for the next blow, he had perfected the art of invisibility, or so he thought. His dark hair fell across eyes that rarely met those of others, a shield against a world that had shown him little kindness. 3 lockers down, Jason Prescott and his followers had cornered a sophomore. Their laughter echoed through the hallway, sharp and dangerous. "Nice shoes, charity case. Where'd you get them? The dumpster behind Goodwill." Jason's voice carried the casual cruelty of someone who had never faced consequences. Ethan's fingers tightened around his worn backpack strap. "Don't look. Don't get involved." The mantra that had kept him safe, or at least safer, for the past 3 years. His jaw clenched as he heard something fall to the floor, followed by more laughter. The sophomore, a thin boy with glasses too large for his face and clothes that hung from his frame as if borrowed, knelt to retrieve scattered papers. His hands trembled slightly. There was something oddly dignified about him, even on his knees. "Leave something for the janitor to clean up," Jason said, kicking the papers further down the hall. "He needs to earn his minimum wage somehow." Ethan knew the smart move. Walk away. Keep his head down. Survive until graduation, now just 5 months away. He'd endured worse than this. The scar above his right eyebrow was testament to that. But something about the boy's quiet dignity, the way he methodically gathered his papers without complaint, struck a chord. Ethan recognized the careful control, the calculated breathing of someone trying not to give bullies the reaction they craved. Before he could reconsider, Ethan found himself moving. His feet carried him forward as if possessed by someone braver than himself. "That's enough," he said, his voice steadier than he felt. The hallway seemed to still. Even the rain paused against the windows. Jason turned slowly, his smile spreading like an oil slick. "Well, if it isn't Trash Miller." Decided to join the conversation? Ethan's throat constricted. His palms grew damp. But he was already here, already visible. "No going back now. The conversation's over," Ethan said, kneeling to help gather the remaining papers. Up close, he noticed they were covered in complex equations and what looked like computer code. "Just leave him alone." "Or what?" Jason stepped closer, looming over Ethan. The familiar scent of expensive cologne mixed with the metallic tang of fear in Ethan's nostrils. Ethan stood, clutching the papers like a shield. He was taller than Jason by an inch, a fact that had always seemed to irritate the other boy. "Or nothing," Ethan said quietly. "Just be better than this." For a moment, violence hung in the air between them, a held breath. Ethan braced himself for the blow he was certain would come. Instead, the bell rang, shattering the tension. Jason's eyes narrowed. "This isn't over, Miller," he said, backing away. "You just made a big mistake." When Jason and his followers disappeared around the corner, Ethan released a shaky breath. His heart thundered against his ribs as if trying to escape. "Thank you," said a soft voice beside him. Ethan turned to the boy, handing him the rescued papers. "No problem. I'm Ethan. Noah," the boy replied, adjusting his glasses. His eyes were startlingly intelligent, a clear, perceptive blue. "Noah Chen, you didn't have to do that." Ethan shrugged, suddenly self-conscious. "Yeah, well, Jason's a jerk to everyone." "Including you?" Noah asked, his gaze too knowing. "Ancient history," Ethan muttered, though the bruise fading on his ribs suggested otherwise. "You new here?" Noah nodded. "Started last week. Still figuring out the terrain." He smiled slightly, revealing a chipped front tooth that somehow made him seem more approachable. "The social geography is challenging. That's one way to put it." Ethan glanced at his watch. "We're late. What class do you have?" "Advanced physics with Brenner." Ethan blinked in surprise. "You're in senior classes?" "As a sophomore." Noah's cheeks colored slightly. "I tested up in some subjects." "Some subjects," Ethan repeated, glimpsing the complex equations again. "Right." They walked together toward the science wing, an unlikely pair drawing curious glances. Ethan, tall and angular, with faded jeans and a hoodie that had seen better days. And Noah, small and neat despite the earlier assault. "What about you?" Noah asked. "What's your next class?" "Art," Ethan admitted, somewhat embarrassed. While most serious students focused on classes that would boost college applications, Ethan had clung to the one subject where he felt like more than just a target. "You're an artist?" Noah's interest seemed genuine. Not really. I just like to draw sometimes. Ethan's hand instinctively touched the sketchbook in his backpack. Its pages held more of his truth than he'd ever spoken aloud. At the junction of the hallway, they paused. Left to physics, right to art. See you around? Noah asked, hesitation in his voice as if expecting rejection. Ethan recognized that tone all too well. Yeah, he said, surprising himself with his sincerity. See you around, Noah. As he walked to art class, Ethan felt oddly lighter. The encounter left him unsettled, but not in the usual way of school confrontations. He'd stood up to Jason and somehow avoided immediate retaliation. More surprisingly, he'd actually talked to someone new, someone who hadn't looked at him with pity or contempt. Still, a familiar anxiety gnawed at him. Jason wasn't one to forget or forgive perceived slights. Ethan had just placed himself squarely in the crosshairs again, after months of careful invisibility. Ms. Harlow barely glanced up as Ethan slipped into the art room. Nice of you to join us, Mr. Miller, she said, but without real admonishment. Of all his teachers, she alone seemed to see past his carefully constructed walls. Sorry, he murmured, taking his usual seat by the window. Today we're discussing perspective. Ms. Harlow continued, chalk dust coating her perpetually paint-stained fingers. How what we see depends entirely on where we stand. Ethan opened his sketchbook, but his thoughts remained in the hallway with Noah Chen and his dignified resilience. He wondered what perspective could make sense of a world where kindness felt dangerous and standing up for what was right came with a price tag. By the time the final bell rang, rain had given way to weak winter sunshine. Ethan lingered at his locker, hoping Jason and his crew had already left. The hallways emptied quickly on Fridays, students rushing toward weekend freedom. Ethan? Noah's voice startled him. The younger boy stood a few feet away, clutching his backpack straps. Hey, Ethan said, closing his locker. Everything okay? Noah nodded. I was wondering if you wanted to grab something to eat. There's a cafe about a block from here. My treat, as thanks for earlier. Ethan hesitated. He couldn't remember the last time someone had invited him anywhere. Social isolation had become his norm, partly by circumstance and partly by choice. You don't have to, Noah added quickly, misreading his silence. I just thought, no, it's fine, Ethan interrupted. That sounds good, actually. The words felt foreign in his mouth, but not unwelcome. They walked in comfortable silence, emerging into the winter afternoon. The air held the clean, sharp scent of recent rain and approaching snow. Ethan noticed Noah limping slightly. Are you hurt? He asked. Noah glanced down at his foot. Just a sprain from last week. It's nothing. From Jason? Different school, same story. Noah said with a small smile that held no humor. Bullies have a certain universal quality, don't they? Ethan's laugh was more breath than sound. Yeah, they really do. The cafe Noah led them to was warm and inviting, with mismatched furniture and the rich aroma of coffee and baked goods. Despite its charm, it wasn't a place many Westlake students frequented. Too far from the usual hangouts, too quirky for the popular crowd. They settled into a corner table, Noah ordering a chai tea and Ethan a black coffee. When Noah added a plate of pastries to their order, Ethan started to protest. I insist, Noah said firmly. Seriously, what you did today, most people just watch. Ethan stared into his coffee, uncomfortable with gratitude he didn't feel he deserved. I've been that kid on the floor too many times, he said quietly. Doesn't make me a hero. Maybe not, Noah conceded. But it does make you brave. Brave. No one had ever used that word to describe Ethan before. Pathetic, sure. Loner, definitely. But brave? The word sat uncomfortably on his shoulders, ill-fitting as a borrowed coat. Their conversation drifted to safer topics. Classes, teachers. Noah's move from California to their small Connecticut town mid-school year. Ethan found himself relaxing, drawn in by Noah's quick wit and lack of pretense. So why did you move here? Ethan asked, reaching for a second pastry. Not exactly a teenage dream destination. Something flickered across Noah's face. My dad's work. He ... Travels a lot for business. We move around sometimes. That must be tough, Ethan said. His own life had its challenges, but at least he'd had stability. Same small house, same neighborhood, same absent father and overworked mother for as long as he could remember. Noah shrugged. You get used to it. Huna syndrome. What about your family? Ethan's jaw tightened automatically. Family wasn't a topic he discussed willingly. Just my mom and me. She works double shifts at the hospital. She's a nurse, he added, a touch of pride softening his voice. That's amazing, Noah said, and Ethan was surprised by the sincerity in his tone. Healthcare workers are the real superheroes. Yeah, she is. Ethan agreed, thinking of his mother's perpetual exhaustion, the way she still managed to ask about his day every night, no matter how late her shift had ended. Outside, darkness had fallen early, as it did in January. Street lights flickered on, casting pools of yellow light on wet pavement. I should probably head home, Ethan said reluctantly. My mom's working night shift this weekend. I need to make sure everything's set before she leaves. Noah nodded, pulling out his phone. Can I get your number? In case physics homework gets too intense or something. The transparent excuse made Ethan smile. He recited his number, watching as Noah entered it into what appeared to be the latest model smartphone, the kind Ethan could never afford. As they stood to leave, Noah reached for his wallet. Ethan caught a glimpse of several large bills before Noah quickly extracted a 20 for their tab. Ready? Noah asked, seemingly unaware of Ethan's notice. The walk back toward school was quieter, but comfortably so. At the main intersection, they would head in opposite directions. Ethan toward the older part of town, Noah toward the newer developments. Thanks for the coffee, Ethan said, hands deep in his pockets against the cold. Thanks for being a decent human being, Noah replied. Rarer than you'd think. They parted with awkward half waves, Ethan watching as Noah walked away, his slight limp barely noticeable now. An odd feeling settled in Ethan's chest. Something like hope, fragile and unfamiliar. As he turned toward home, snow began to fall in delicate flakes that melted against his upturned face. For the first time in months, the weight on his shoulders felt just a little lighter. The weekend passed in familiar solitude. Ethan sketched, prepared meals for his mother to heat up between shifts, and worked on a history paper due Monday. By Sunday evening, he'd nearly convinced himself that Friday's events had been inconsequential. Just another school day. The connection with Noah, a temporary aberration in his carefully isolated existence. Then his phone chimed with a text from an unknown number. Have you started Henderson's history paper? This progressive era stuff is putting me to sleep. Ethan stared at the message, a smile tugging at his lips despite himself. Almost done, he replied. Try focusing on the muckrakers. At least they had cool nicknames. Noah's response came immediately. Solid advice. See you tomorrow? Same locker area? Something warm unfurled in Ethan's chest. Yeah, see you there. Monday morning dawned clear and cold. Ethan dressed with slightly more care than usual, swapping his most worn hoodie for a slightly newer one, running a comb through his perpetually messy hair. The change didn't escape his mother's notice as she prepared to sleep after her night shift. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, but her smile was warm as she paused in the kitchen doorway. You look nice, she observed, pouring coffee into her faded NASA mug. Any special reason? Ethan shrugged, uncomfortable under her knowing gaze. Just felt like it. Martha Miller was too tired to press, but her eyes held a question. It had been years since Ethan had shown interest in his appearance. Not since middle school, before the bullying intensified, before his father left, before Ethan began to disappear into himself. Have a good day, she said simply, pressing a kiss to his forehead as she had since he was small. Though he now towered over her, the gesture remained unchanged, a constant in their shifting world. Get some sleep, he replied, their usual morning exchange. The school hallways buzzed with Monday morning energy as Ethan made his way to his locker. He scanned the crowd automatically, a survival habit, looking for Jason's distinctive red Letterman jacket or Noah's slight frame. He spotted Noah first, already waiting by Ethan's locker. Something tight in Ethan's chest eased at the sight. Morning? Noah greeted him, brightening visibly. I brought you something. From his backpack, Noah produced a paper cup from the cafe they'd visited. Black coffee, right? Ethan accepted the cup, warmth seeping through his fingers. You didn't have to do that. I wanted to, Noah said simply. Friends bring each other coffee, don't they? Friends? The word hung between them, a question disguised as a statement. Yeah, Ethan agreed, taking a sip to hide his smile. I guess they do. The moment shattered as Jason rounded the corner, flanked by his usual followers. His eyes narrowed when he spotted Ethan and Noah. Well, if it isn't the garbage collector and his trash, Jason called, loud enough for nearby students to turn and stare. Ethan tensed, coffee forgotten. Beside him, Noah stood straighter, his expression carefully neutral. Not worth it, Ethan muttered, turning to open his locker. Just ignore them. Jason stepped closer, deliberately bumping Noah's shoulder hard enough to make him stumble. Coffee sloshed over Ethan's hand, hot and startling. I'm talking to you, Miller, Jason said, his voice dropping to a dangerous register. Thought you'd learned your lesson about sticking your nose where it doesn't belong. Ethan carefully set the coffee cup on the ledge of his locker, wiping his burned hand against his jeans. 3 years of harassment had taught him the careful calculus of these encounters. Engage and get hurt, run and get chased, show fear and invite more. "We're just trying to get to class, Jason," he said quietly. "Let it go." Jason's laugh held no humor. "Let it go? You embarrassed me on Friday, and you think I'll just let it go?" No one noticed except us. Noah interjected, his voice surprisingly steady. "There's nothing to be embarrassed about." Jason's attention swiveled to Noah, his eyes narrowing. "Nobody asked you, charity case. What are you even doing here? This isn't a shelter for rejects." Something in Ethan snapped. The familiar fear remained, but alongside it rose a fiercer emotion: protectiveness. Noah, who had shown him simple kindness, who called him brave, who brought him coffee. Noah didn't deserve this. "Back off," Ethan said, stepping between them. "He's done nothing to you. He exists," Jason replied with a shrug. "That's enough." The first bell rang, saving them from escalation as students began hurrying to class. Jason stepped back, his smile returning. "This isn't over," he said, the same promise from Friday. This time Ethan believed him. As Jason walked away, Noah exhaled shakily. "Sorry about that. Seems I'm making things worse for you." Ethan shook his head, gathering his books. That's just Jason. He was going to find a reason regardless. They walked together toward their first classes, the hallway emptying around them. Why does he hate you so much?" Noah asked. "Seems personal." Ethan hesitated. The story wasn't one he shared often. "We used to be friends, actually. Elementary school, middle school. Then his dad left his mom for a younger woman. Around the same time, my dad left us too, but for different reasons. I tried to talk to him about it, thought we could help each other through it. But he didn't want that," Noah guessed. "No, he decided reinventing himself was better. Became someone else entirely. When 10th grade started, he pretended we'd never been friends. Started targeting me specifically." Ethan's laugh held no humor. "Guess I was a reminder of who he used to be." Noah was quiet for a moment. "That's really sad," he said finally. "For him, I mean, to hate part of yourself that much." The insight struck Ethan as unusually perceptive. "Yeah, I guess it is." At the hallway junction, they paused again. "Lunch later?" Noah asked. Ethan usually spent lunch periods in the library or the art room, avoiding the social battlefield of the cafeteria. But he found himself nodding. "Yeah, okay. Meet you by the east entrance?" Noah's smile was worth whatever risk the cafeteria might hold. The morning dragged. In English, Ethan found himself sketching absently in the margins of his notes. Quick studies of Noah's expressive hands, the way his glasses sat slightly crooked on his nose. By lunch, rumors had already circulated about the morning's confrontation, distorted through the high school grapevine. Ethan heard whispers as he made his way to the east entrance. Stood up to Jason again. Ikilu hanging out with the new kid. Asking for trouble. Noah was waiting, a brown paper bag clutched in his hands. "I packed lunch," he explained. "Cafeteria food is," he made a face, "criminally bad." Ethan finished with a small laugh. "I usually bring mine too." They found a relatively quiet table in the corner of the cafeteria. As Noah unpacked his lunch, Ethan couldn't help noticing the quality. What looked like homemade sushi, fresh fruit, and something in a container that smelled amazing when open. "Did you make all this?" Ethan asked, unwrapping his own simple sandwich. Noah's cheeks colored slightly. "Our housekeeper did. I can't cook to save my life." Housekeeper. The word registered as another piece of the puzzle that was Noah Chen. The expensive phone, the housekeeper, the cash in his wallet. Noah clearly came from money. "Want to try some?" Noah pushed the container toward him. "It's just udon soup, but May makes it better than any restaurant." The gesture was so naturally generous that Ethan didn't feel the usual pride that would have made him refuse. He accepted the offered spoon, tasting the rich, savory broth. "That's incredible," he admitted. Noah smiled, pushing more of his lunch toward the center of the table. "Share with me?" "I never finish it all anyway." They ate together, trading food and stories. Ethan learned that Noah had lived in 6 different cities in the past 4 years, that he spoke 3 languages, that he dreamed of studying astrophysics at MIT. In turn, Ethan shared small pieces of himself: his love of drawing, his mother's dedication to her patients, his secret hope of attending art school if he could ever afford it. "You should show me your work sometime," Noah said, genuine interest in his voice. Ethan hesitated. His art was private, personal, glimpses into how he saw the world when no one was watching. "Maybe," he said noncommittally. "It's nothing special. I doubt that, Noah replied, his clear blue eyes too perceptive. I bet you see things others miss. The rest of the week fell into a pattern. Ethan and Noah met before school, navigated classes, shared lunch, and occasionally walked to the cafe after final bell. Jason watched with narrowed eyes but kept his distance, creating an illusion of safety that Ethan knew was temporary. By Friday, something had shifted. The constant tension in Ethan's shoulders had eased slightly. He found himself smiling more, participating in class discussions, even nodding to other students in the hallway. His mother noticed too. Thursday night, she'd paused in the doorway of his room, watching as he actually sorted through his closet for something decent to wear the next day. You seem different, she observed carefully. In a good way. Ethan shrugged, uncomfortable under her gaze. Just trying some new things. Martha Miller stepped into the room, perching on the edge of his bed. Does this have anything to do with why you've been getting up early? Or why you asked for lunch money yesterday instead of making your own? Heat crept up Ethan's neck. Nothing escaped her notice, even with her exhausting schedule. I made a friend, he admitted finally, the word strange on his tongue after so long. His name is Noah. He's new. The smile that bloomed across his mother's tired face made something ache in his chest. Oh, Ethan, that's wonderful. He turned back to his closet, embarrassed by her obvious joy at such a simple statement. It's not a big deal. It is, she said softly. You know it is. Friday afternoon, Noah suggested they go to his house instead of the cafe. My dad's away on business, he explained as they walked toward the student parking lot. But we have a great entertainment system, and May always makes too much food for just me. Ethan hesitated. The invitation felt like crossing a threshold, moving their friendship beyond the neutral territories of school and the cafe. Unless you need to get home, Noah added quickly. No, that sounds good, Ethan decided. Mom's working again tonight. Noah smiled, leading him toward the far end of the parking lot. Ethan expected to see a car waiting, perhaps a parent or the housekeeper Noah had mentioned. Instead, Noah stopped beside a sleek black SUV that screamed money. The kind of vehicle that cost more than Ethan's mother made in a year. This is yours? Ethan couldn't keep the surprise from his voice. Noah looked almost embarrassed as he unlocked the car with a key fob. My dad's, technically, but he got it for me to use while he's away. The interior smelled of new leather and something subtly expensive. Ethan settled into the passenger seat, suddenly acutely aware of his worn jeans and scuffed boots. As they pulled out of the parking lot, he noticed several students watching with undisguised curiosity. Being seen in this car would start new rumors by Monday, something Ethan would have avoided at all costs just a week ago. Now, strangely, he found he didn't care. So where exactly do you live? Ethan asked as they turned onto the main road leading out of town. Lakeview Estates, Noah replied, eyes on the road. It's about 15 minutes from here. Ethan's eyebrows rose. Lakeview Estates was the most exclusive neighborhood in the area. Gated communities of mansions set around a private lake, home to executives, old money families, and the occasional celebrity seeking rural privacy. Right, Ethan said, pieces clicking into place. The expensive clothes that Noah somehow made look ordinary. The casual way he handled money, the frequent relocations. Your dad must do well in business. Noah's knuckles whitened slightly on the steering wheel. Yeah, he does okay. The understatement hung between them, neither comfortable nor uncomfortable, just present, like a third passenger. They passed through Westlake's modest downtown, then into increasingly affluent suburbs until finally turning onto a private road marked with discreet but unmistakable security features. A guard waved them through towering gates, barely glancing at Noah's familiar vehicle. Ethan tried not to stare as they drove past homes that looked like they belonged in magazines. Sprawling structures set back from the road, each on several acres of pristine landscaping. Noah turned onto a curved driveway lined with dormant flower beds that promised spring splendor. At its end stood what Ethan could only describe as a modern mansion. Glass and stone blending harmoniously with the wooded setting, the structure somehow both imposing and welcoming. Home sweet home, Noah said with a self-deprecating smile as he parked in a 3-car garage, already housing a Porsche. For now, anyway. Inside, the house was a study in understated luxury. High ceilings, museum-quality art on the walls, furniture that looked both expensive and comfortable. Large windows showcased views of the lake behind the property, gray-blue and serene under the winter sky. Noah-san, welcome home, called a woman's voice. An elegant, middle-aged Japanese woman emerged from what appeared to be the kitchen, her smile warm. And you've brought a friend. Wonderful. May, this is Ethan. Noah introduced them. Ethan, this is May Tanaka. She keeps everything running smoothly around here. May's bow was slight but respectful. Very pleased to meet you, Ethan. Are you boys hungry? I've just finished preparing some snacks. Starving? Noah admitted. Whatever you've made will be perfect. As May disappeared back into the kitchen, Noah gestured toward a sweeping staircase. Want to see the entertainment room? It's upstairs. Ethan followed, trying not to gawk at his surroundings. The upper floor was equally impressive. A central hallway with doors leading to what he assumed were bedrooms and other spaces. The entertainment room turned out to be larger than the entire first floor of Ethan's house. A massive screen dominated one wall, surrounded by the kind of sound system he'd only seen in electronics stores. Comfortable seating faced the screen, while one corner housed a collection of gaming consoles and another held what appeared to be a small bar stocked with non-alcoholic beverages. Ethan trailed off, unable to find an appropriate word. Too much? Noah suggested, watching his face carefully. A bit? Ethan admitted with a small laugh. Your house is incredible. Noah shrugged, moving to the gaming area. It's just a house. We've had bigger and we've had smaller. Depends on where my dad's business takes us. He picked up a controller. Want to play something? I've got pretty much everything. They settled into gaming, the initial awkwardness fading as they focused on the screen. May brought up a tray of food that made the cafe's offerings look amateur. Perfectly crafted sushi, dumplings, and other delicacies Ethan couldn't name, but enjoyed immensely. As afternoon stretched into evening, Ethan found himself relaxing despite the unfamiliar surroundings. Noah was still just Noah. Quick-witted, slightly dorky about physics, terrible at first-person shooter games, but surprisingly good at strategy ones. During a break between games, Noah disappeared briefly, returning with 2 sodas. Can I ask you something? He said, handing one to Ethan. Sure. Does all this, Noah gestured vaguely at their surroundings, make things weird between us? Ethan considered the question, turning the cold can between his palms. It's definitely an adjustment, he admitted. I mean, your garage is nicer than my house. Noah winced slightly. I should have said something sooner. I just like that you didn't know. What do you mean? Noah set his untouched soda on a side table, suddenly serious. At my old schools, people found out about my dad's money pretty quickly. It changed how they treated me. Some wanted to be friends because of it, others resented me for it. But you, he met Ethan's gaze directly. You stood up for me when you thought I had nothing to offer you in return. The statement hung between them, heavy with implication. I didn't do it expecting anything, Ethan said quietly. Exactly, Noah replied. That's my point. Before Ethan could respond, his phone chimed with a text. His mother asking when he'd be home. I should probably get going, he said, showing Noah the message. My mom worries. I'll drive you, Noah offered immediately. Just let me tell May we're leaving. The ride back to Ethan's neighborhood was quiet, a comfortable silence between them. As they turned onto Ethan's street, modest homes with small yards, most showing signs of deferred maintenance, he felt a flicker of embarrassment. It's the blue one, he directed, pointing to a small 2-bedroom house with peeling paint and a slightly sagging porch. The contrast with Noah's lakeside mansion couldn't have been starker. Noah pulled into the short driveway behind Ethan's mother's aging Honda. Thanks for coming over, he said, turning to face Ethan. I had fun. Me too, Ethan admitted. Then gathering his courage, you know this doesn't change anything, right? Your house, your dad's money, it doesn't matter to me. Noah's smile was small but genuine. I believe you. That's why I showed you. As Ethan walked to his front door, he felt Noah watching, waiting until he was safely inside before backing out of the driveway. The gesture was small but considerate, the kind of thing a friend did. His mother was in the kitchen, nursing a cup of tea before her shift. Have a good time? She asked, her eyes curious but not prying. Yeah, Ethan said, suddenly tired but content. Yeah, I did. The weekend passed in a blur of text exchanges with Noah, homework, and household chores. By Monday morning, Ethan found himself actually looking forward to school, a sensation so foreign he almost didn't recognize it. Noah was waiting by his locker as usual, 2 coffee cups in hand. Morning, he greeted Ethan with a smile. Ready for Henderson's history test? As ready as I'll ever be, Ethan replied, accepting the coffee gratefully. The small ritual felt established now, comfortable. The relative peace lasted until lunch. They had just settled at their usual table when Jason appeared, flanked by 2 of his ever-present followers. Well, if it isn't the charity case and his guard dog, Jason said, loud enough for nearby tables to quiet. Heard you two had quite the weekend. Nice car, Chen. Daddy buy it for you? Noah stiffened almost imperceptibly. What do you want, Jason? Jason's smile was all teeth. Just making conversation. Curious about your sudden friendship with our resident loser? He turned to Ethan. What's he paying you, Miller? Must be good money to hang out with such a freak. Anger flashed hot in Ethan's chest. Walk away, he said quietly. Now. Or what? Jason leaned closer. You'll draw an angry picture of me? Noah stood abruptly. This is childish. We're trying to eat lunch. Sit down, rich boy. Jason snapped. I wasn't talking to you. Something shifted in Noah's expression. A hardening, a calculation. Actually, he said, his voice suddenly different. I think you should be the one to sit down. Or better yet, leave. Jason blinked, caught off guard by the change in Noah's demeanor. Who do you think you are? Someone who's tired of watching you harass people to make yourself feel important. Noah replied evenly. It's pathetic and frankly, boring. The cafeteria had gone completely silent. All eyes were on their table. Students sensing the brewing confrontation like sharks scenting blood. Jason recovered quickly. Big words from someone who needs a bodyguard to walk the halls. What's wrong? Afraid to fight your own battles? There's no battle here, Noah said, his voice still calm. Just a sad attempt to maintain social status by targeting others. Classic insecurity response. Jason's face flushed dark red. You think you're so smart. Smarter than you, certainly, Noah interrupted. But that's not difficult. A few nervous laughs rippled through the watching crowd. Jason's hands clenched into fists. Noah, Ethan warned, standing as well. Let's just go. But Noah held his ground. No, I'm tired of this. Tired of people like him thinking they can treat others however they want without consequences. Consequences? Jason laughed, though it sounded forced. What are you going to do? Call your daddy? Something dangerous flickered in Noah's eyes. I don't need to call anyone. But you should know that my father sits on the board of trustees for Westlake University. The statement landed like a stone in still water. Westlake University was the prestigious college where Jason's mother worked as an administrative assistant, a job that came with the crucial benefit of reduced tuition for family members. It was well known that Jason's college plans hinged entirely on that benefit. You're lying, Jason said, but uncertainty had crept into his voice. Noah pulled out his phone, scrolling briefly before holding up the screen. Board of Trustees, Westlake University. Third name from the top, Dr. David Chen, CEO of Quantum Dynamics. The blood drained from Jason's face as he stared at the screen. Whispers erupted around the cafeteria as students craned their necks to see. My father values loyalty and integrity above all else, Noah continued quietly. He'd be very interested to hear how the son of a university employee conducts himself. Very interested indeed. The threat hung in the air, unspoken but clear. Jason took an involuntary step back. This isn't over, he muttered, but the menace had evaporated from his voice. Yes, Noah said firmly. It is. As Jason and his friends retreated, the cafeteria erupted in hushed conversations. Noah sat back down, his hands trembling slightly as he reached for his water bottle. You didn't have to do that, Ethan said, stunned by what had just transpired. Yes, I did, Noah replied. He wasn't going to stop otherwise. Ethan struggled to reconcile this new side of Noah, confident, almost cold, with the quiet, unassuming boy he'd defended in the hallway just a week ago. Your dad really is on the university board? Noah nodded, some of the tension leaving his shoulders. Among other things. In Quantum Dynamics. That's his company. Another nod. One of them. Ethan's mind raced, trying to place the name. Quantum Dynamics was more than just a successful business. It was a technological giant, regularly featured in news stories about breakthrough innovations. Its founder and CEO was... Your dad is David Chen? Ethan asked, his voice dropping to a whisper. The David Chen? The billionaire? Noah winced slightly. I was going to tell you. Eventually, the pieces clicked into horrifying place. Ethan had befriended, unknowingly, the son of one of the richest men in the country, possibly the world. So you're not just rich, Ethan said slowly. You're obscenely rich. My father is, Noah corrected. I just happen to be his son. Ethan sat back, momentarily speechless. Around them, the cafeteria buzzed with renewed energy as the news spread from table to table. I'm sorry, Noah said after a moment. I should have been honest from the start. But when you stood up for me that day, you were the first person who ever did that without knowing who my father was. It meant something. The sincerity in Noah's voice cut through Ethan's shock. He remembered the boy on his knees in the hallway, gathering scattered papers with quiet dignity. The boy who'd brought him coffee every morning, who'd shared his lunch without making it feel like charity, who'd shown genuine interest in Ethan's art and dreams. "It doesn't change anything," Ethan said finally, repeating his words from Friday night. "It's still just you and me." The relief on Noah's face was palpable. "Thank you." As they finished their lunch, amid curious stares and whispers, Ethan realized their lives at Westlake had just irrevocably changed. By tomorrow, everyone would know who Noah Chen really was, and by extension, who Ethan was to him. For the first time in years, though, the prospect of attention didn't fill him with dread. Something had shifted inside him, a quiet confidence taking root. He had stood up for someone who needed help, expecting nothing in return. That choice had led to an unlikely friendship that now seemed to transcend the vast differences in their circumstances. As they walked to their afternoon classes, Noah bumped his shoulder against Ethan's in a gesture of solidarity. "Still friends?" he asked, vulnerability beneath the question. Ethan nodded, a small smile forming. "Still friends." The snow had begun again outside the windows, soft flakes drifting against the glass. But inside, Ethan felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the school's heating system and everything to do with the realization that sometimes the bravest choice was also the simplest: to be kind when it would be easier to look away. A bullied teen had stood up for a kid at school, unaware he'd just befriended the son of a billionaire. But in the end, it wasn't about wealth or status or power. It was about finding connection in an unexpected place, and discovering that courage, once found, tends to grow stronger with each challenge it faces. As they parted ways at the familiar hallway junction, Ethan realized that in trying to protect someone else, he had somehow begun to save himself as well.